Actually get it recording. We are now recording. So Susan, welcome and take it away.
All right. All right. Thanks everybody for joining. We actually are talking about today's topic is do I really need to learn to market? Which I think we had a little blip in that if you saw your email this morning. Hope you're here to learn about marketing. So, but before we get started, let me just ask a question. So put your fingers on your keyboard, get ready to put something in the chat. Just tell me how long you have been a coach. Where's my chat room there? I'm just curious. There we go. Oh, we got 20 years, 15 years, year 2, 1 year, 1 year, 6, 5, 2.5, less than a year, just starting. All right. Okay, that's kind of what I was expecting. So we've got some people that are here because they're just getting started and probably have an interest in how you build your business. And then we've got some others who've been through this for a while, and you will be able to contribute a lot to the conversation, I'm sure, from your experiences. So I've got about maybe 25 minutes or so of content, and then we're going to have the rest of the time for conversation. But let me ask you this, using your little raise your hand emoji, answer this. Raise your hand if you are a marketing professional, if marketing comes easily to you, or if you just flat out love marketing. Let me see how many hands we get. All right, and that is why we are here. Because if you did love marketing, you wouldn't be a coach, you'd be a marketer. So let me see if I can hit this up, get my screen up here. I've got some content with you. They are not going to be real pretty slides, but they've got some information. So just bear with me while I share my screen. And we will get started. Okay. Where's my... All right. So for you new coaches, here is what I call the myth. If I build it, in other words, if I become a coach, they will come, my clients. That might work for baseball fields in old movies, but it doesn't work for most business. We actually have to do something. But here's where you can relax. What got you into coaching will actually help you market yourself and your business. Because you no doubt have a sincere desire to help people because you're not out there selling soap or vacuum cleaners. You want to help them change their lives. And you likely have an interest in human behavior. And not only that, if you've been trained as a coach, you have been actually trained to observe people and respond accordingly. So what I've learned is that marketing and selling is a process. There are all kinds of research around what works and what doesn't, whether it's odd people respond to odd numbers rather than round numbers, but it's all based on human behavior. It's based on what creates a desire in people to take action. And, you know, we won't talk about the research or stuff here. You can follow that up. And there's some things that are worth knowing out there. But it's all based on human behavior, and you have been trained in observing and responding to human behavior. So one thing is you're thinking about marketing your business, use yourself as a guide. I mean, what is it that makes you take action? What is it when you buy something? What is it that is the trigger in you? It's usually some sort of an emotional, it can be just a need, but there's also probably some sort of emotional trigger that makes you want to take action. And because emotional hooks matter, they're not hokey or insincere. It's about finding out what matters to people and creating a space where they want to participate. So let's see. So why is marketing so hard for us? Well, It's probably not what you have a passion for, or you'd be in marketing. And it also involves putting ourselves out there. And if you're new, especially, you're putting yourself out there at a time when you're still finding your own way. And that can be a little nerve-wracking. Marketing requires you to talk about yourself in a way that might feel like bragging. This is particularly, but not only true for women. But here's what I would like you to remember. If you are telling someone about your skills, your abilities, your coaching, your business, if your intention is good, which it is, it's not bragging, it's just information. And the other thing that makes marketing so hard for us is there's always that risk of rejection. And who likes that? So here's my disclaimer. I am not a professional marketer. In fact, I was trained as an accountant, and my career was in the financial arena before I took on this second career as a coach about 12 years ago. But later in my career, I was a leader. I was a mentor to many, but I've never been a marketer. So what I have learned in building my coaching business, I've learned from classes, I've learned from trial and error. I at one point used a particular coach to train me in some marketing techniques from paying attention. And what I've done in paying attention to others and myself is I've found a way of doing some things that feel authentic and real for me. And you know what? Some of it was really uncomfortable at first. But there's a difference in being uncomfortable with something because you don't have the skill yet versus being uncomfortable with something because the method is just not for you. For example, I am very comfortable with speaking engagements, one-on-one conversations, and personal referrals, which are, of course, are the easiest because they're already coming to you positively predisposed. But I am comfortable now making an offer or asking someone to hire me in those environments. But I wasn't initially because I didn't know how, I hadn't done it before. So some of these things, when you're out marketing yourself, are going to be uncomfortable initially. But that's okay. You get through, you find out what works for you, and you'll be fine. So what I've come up here for our work today is 10 tips that I have used, that I have learned for marketing your coaching business. This is not an exhaustive class. And as I said, I'm not a professional marketer, but these are things I've either learned for myself or learned from others that helped me develop my coaching business. So here we go. I think the first question to ask yourself is, are you going to work as a subcontractor or work for someone else? Or are you going to self-market? I, from the beginning, chose to market myself and build my business on my own. Why? Because I had a large network of contacts. I had an existing reputation in the space that I wanted to be coaching in. Oops, something happened. I'm back here. And I had access to venues where I knew I could meet potential clients. So from the beginning, I chose to market my business on my own. There is, and this is probably another topic for another coach, Launchpad, there's a whole nother strategy where you subcontract or work for others. So I'm going to be talking from my experience, but just know that there is that option out there. So number one, what are you going to do? Subcontract or self-market? Number two, and you've probably heard this a lot, and you've probably heard it in some of your coaching training, you've got to define your niche. I believe that if you try to be everything to everyone, they won't know when to call you. People and their brains need a way of making an association. Oh, yes, you are the one that coaches new business entrepreneurs. I have a brother who would, you should meet him. Or yes, you coach corporate women. Would you like to come talk to our corporate women's group? But you've got to have a niche. I'm a coach. Okay, are you a life coach? Are you a business coach? Are you a nutrition coach? Are you, do you work with CEOs? Do you work with students? But define your niche. I think that's really important. My niche is mid-career, high potential corporate women. That's what it's been from the beginning. Now, I have coached men in the C-suite. I have coached other people outside of that, but everything I do, whenever I talk about myself, it's designed to appeal to my niche. Okay, so once you've defined and you know who your niche is, you have to know what their pain points are. What are the common issues among the people in your target market? What are the common issues amongst people that you want to hire you? In mine, mid-career corporate women, I know that they might be unhappy with their job, they're not getting recognition, they're not getting advancement, they're frustrated by politics. There are a set of common issues. And I found that out by one, listening, two, reading, and I did some, every now and then I would do kind of some market sampling with small groups of people in different ways, just to make sure that I was still up to date. But I will say that once you identify your niche and their pain points, everything you do on social media, on your website, in your speaking, in your conversations needs to appeal to those, so that that's really how you're establishing your brand within that space, which is another topic. So identify their pain points. Okay. And then you've got to choose your method of marketing. Are you going to do speaking engagements, social media, personal referrals, networking, newsletters, blogs, events, advertising? There are a number of different ways of doing it. And this is not a plug for this. Well, it is kind of a plug for this book that I've talked about before. It's called Get Clients Now. There are probably a million of them out there. I just happened on this one. If you like a structured way of thinking about what kinds of marketing tools are out there, it's just one that I've used as a refresher and a reminder over the years. But choose your methods. And it has to be someplace you're comfortable in. For me, I do a lot. I'm comfortable doing speaking engagements and making an offer at the end of that speaking engagement, an offer for someone to take a next step. Had to learn how, but I'm comfortable doing that. I'm comfortable doing that one-on-one. I tried someone told me early on, try Facebook advertising. And that didn't work for me because my clients don't hang out on Facebook when they're thinking about their career. I tried free webinars, and they were actually quite fun to do, but I didn't get enough, conversion. I didn't get enough clients from that, so I quit doing them. So choose your methods, 2, maybe 3, not everything, and figure out what's going to work for you that you're comfortable doing. Point number 5, hang out where your PNCs hang out. My husband used that phrase some time ago, and I said, what's a PNC? Potential new client. Oh, okay. I never thought of it that way. But hang out where the people that you want to hire, hang out where they are hanging out and be consistent about it. So for me, if mid-career corporate women or corporate women in general, I'm a member of a number of women's groups. That's where I speak. That's where that's what I write about. Those are the kinds of events I go to. And you've got to be consistent about this. I will tell you that every time that I have let my marketing go and just taken care of my clients, my new clients, my business would go down. It might have been because, at one point my mother moved in with us because she was ill and I was spending more time taking care of her and taking her to the doctor. No problem with that. I'm perfectly, no regrets, very happy to have done it. But just know that anytime you are inconsistent in your market presence, it's going to show up in your business. And there have been a lot of times when I will go to an event where my potential new clients are hanging out and someone will come up and be, oh my gosh, Susan, I so need to call you. And there will be something that's been going on in their life that they've been meaning to take action on. And all of a sudden they see you and they're like, oh yes, can I talk to you? Can I do whatever? So hang out where they hang out, your new clients hang out, and be consistent about it. Okay, next slide, number 6. Okay, you know how you're going to market, you know what their pain points are, what your methods are, you're hanging out where they are, but you're going to have to create a way to have that first conversation. So that's about making it available to them. It might be a click on your website where they can schedule a 20-minute conversation. Oops, what happened? Am I still here?
Yeah, you are
And you
still,
just went to the last slide.
yeah, I think you went to the last slide, yeah.
Oh, I don't know what's going on because I didn't touch anything, but whatever. It's the whatever. It's the elves in my office. Where was I? Oh, the first conversation. I use Acuity scheduling. They can go to my website and click on have a coaching discovery call. If I meet someone and I'm like, okay, well, would you like to learn more about coaching, or do you want to talk more about this situation? But create some, initiate a way to have that first conversation. And then here's the other cool part. You're a coach. You can coach your way through that. Because what do we know? We ask questions. You want to find out what's the problem they're trying to solve. What is it that has you interested in coaching? And you learn more. You obviously listen more than you talk. And then at some point, you have to make a transition to get them to come to action. So one question I learned over the years is, okay, you're in this situation. It's giving you obviously this discomfort or this pain. What will be the consequences if you don't do anything about this? How long do you think you can stay in this situation? What would you like it to look like? Help them see what it could look like on the other side. But at some point, you have to get them to a point where they want to take action. Okay, point number 7. Give them something, but leave them wanting more. I learned this point taking a marketing class from Mary Kravitz, who I liked her. That was a number of years ago. And she taught me that you don't give everything away and you leave them wanting more. So whether it's your coaching methodology, or whether it's one possible way of approaching a topic and there are others, or whether it's just something that lets them know that you have what they can use. You have what they want. You will get, you probably, for those of you who've been doing this for a while, you've probably had a lot of this. You will get people that want to talk to you just to get free coaching. And you can tell pretty quickly. They might sign up for a coaching call, and you can tell if they're just looking for you to solve all their problems in that 1 30-minute conversation. Or if they're just looking to learn. And that's fine. I mean, you get to choose. If you sense that, you can choose to, okay, maybe I'll just help this person, whatever. Or you can find a way out of that conversation. Might be like something like, it sounds like what you've got going on is fairly complex. This is not something that's going to happen in the course of our conversation today. Would you like to have a conversation about signing up for a coaching program? But whatever whatever you do, you just don't want to give them everything if you really think that they are likely to hire you. Okay, so give them something, but leave them wanting more. Number 8, go for the close. You actually are going to have to ask for the business. And this is where I think a lot of us get uncomfortable. Certainly it was hard for me in the early days. But simple comments like, well, I'd really like to help you. Well, that's nice, but that doesn't take them to action. Would you like to get started on coaching? That's a yes or no, but you're going to have to ask for the business. And if they're like, well, I don't know, I'm still thinking about it, questions. Again, you're a coach, you're good at asking questions. Okay, well, what is it that would help you decide? Is there more information you need? And whatever that is, if they need more information, offer things that might help influence their decision. Would you like me to would you like to talk to some of my former clients? Would you like some client referrals? I've done things like, what you're going through relates to an article I wrote on this a few years back. I'm going to send you a copy of it. But also, just give them something that doesn't just end it. Unless it's a no and it's a firm no, in which case, okay, it's a no. Not everybody's going to hire you. And then number 9, send your follow-up immediately. If they say yes, or even most likely yes, I will send a contract. I will send them my client questionnaire. I will send them my scheduling link. I will send them everything they need to finalize it. Because I found that until they sign the contract, sign up for their coaching call, and pay their first payment, you don't really know that it's a done deal. Most of them will. If they say yes, most of them will come. But I've had a couple over the years that they just disappear, even though they said they wanted to do this. And then number 10 is follow-up. Add them to anybody, even the ones that say no, unless they really don't want to hear from you. Add them to your email list, stay in touch. I've had people say to me, I don't think now's the right time. So I'll put a little call up in my calendar, and maybe 3 months from now or 6 months from now, I'll send them an email, or I'll make contact with them in some way and say, listen, last year at this time, you were going through such and such, and you had a lot on your plate, and coaching wasn't the right time. Just checking in. Is there a conversation that we can have now? So do something that gives a follow-up, and ideally some sort of a personal stay in touch opportunity. So it's the personal connection that matters. So the bottom line is yes, if you're going to be a coach and build your coaching business, you do need to do some marketing one way or the other. And there are a few basics that you'll have to get comfortable with, learning how to talk about yourself, learning how to ask people for business. And I can tell you, it's not going to be comfortable at first, but it'll be worth it to learn. And it'll boost your confidence as well as your business. And with that, I'm going to take it off screen share, and we'll just open up for conversation.
Yeah, welcome in again, everybody. So if there are questions, feel free to put those in the chat, or if you'd like to come off mute, I believe you can unmute yourselves. Let's see, Kelly, you've got your hand raised first. I see that one. So Kelly, go ahead.
I have a question. I wanted to know where I can get information about different types of packages that people offer for coaching, and also where I can get information on the like standard rates for different types of coaching in my area.
We'll open this up to anybody that has information on this. I have used just some of the ICF surveys that I've seen, and for people I know, well, I will ask them. Also for the subcontracting, I would always ask them what they were paying if you're interested in that. But again, that's not a space I'm as familiar with. But who else where else have others of you that have been doing this for a while, where have you gotten your information?
Can I just say that I not Googled, I put in the search request different ways, trying to find out benchmarked hourly rates, and I couldn't find anything.
I'm trying to think of some different search words, because I have found some things.
Yeah.
But that's where I've come. But let's see. Some of the others of you that have been doing this a while probably have.
There's some in terms of packages, one of the things I've done is actually look at other coaches' sites. And forgive me, it might have been some of you guys. But you can look at what other packages people are offering. And even if, say, you're coaching in burnout, but there's another coach coaching in another area, there may be some similarities or some things you can take away from that, or the format that you can leverage as well to keep it simple. That's something to think about. Any other thoughts, ads?
Hey everyone, this is Chris. Hey Kelly. I currently still work in a large corporate where I'm in supply chain, so I know all about benchmarking, etc. But as I venture into my coaching, I'm letting go of any form of benchmark. And I determine my rate based on my own value and what I believe I can offer. So I source the rate based off what I feel is right, and I can confidently stand in as I coach a client. If I have the client, let's say, if I can intrinsically feel the confidence to charge someone $100,000 a year, then that is what I would charge. I'm not there yet, but I will get there. And once you own that truth, you will attract those clients and you will be able to offer that value. So what is your vision for your business? What clients speak to you? And once you understand your vision, your clients, you can work backwards. Hey, what kind of packages would I like to offer? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 3 months? Is it 12 months? And then what are the appropriate rates that could suit my clients and yourself? And that's how I am moving away from the mind and trying to trust my intuition and heart.
I like that. And it speaks to me. I read a book and I can't remember the name of the book right now, but anyway, it was talking about having that kind of a mindset. But I feel like because I'm just starting out offering my services in this space, I've been doing career counseling for a long time, but I just got my ACC like weeks ago. And so I don't know. I mean, there has to be some parameter around what is going to be acceptable in my market. Like, and I say acceptable, I guess, well, anyway, I feel like there's probably a range.
I think the ICF website has a few data sources. I just quickly typed it in Google and I found a report from 2008. So that's dated, but it'll give you a sense of what executive coaches charge.
Okay.
Yeah. And the range, I mean, thanks for your comments too, Chris. The range is broad. I mean, high-end CEO kinds of C-suite coaches, they'll get, $750, $1,000, maybe even more per hour. Whereas some very beginning career coaches or subcontractors are less than $100 an hour. That's a big range in between.
Yeah.
But I do think the point about what you're willing to do and what your clients are willing to pay too. And I think it might have been on one of these coach Launchpads. I mentioned that one time I practically had a shoe-in for a coaching job. And I met with the CFO of this company, and it was her staff I was going to coach. And I didn't get it. And in retrospect, I feel reasonably certain is that I wasn't charging her enough, because there is some element of people perceive the value to be what they're paying for it. So,
Kelly, I'll just give you a real life example. I'm new, hired a life coach for myself. She charged me $40 an hour. My wife has a life coach that's been doing this for a while. She's paying $200 an hour.
Data points. There you go, Kelly. Data points.
Yeah.
Thank you, William. Thank you, Chris. Tell you what, Dolan's had her hand up for quite a while there. Dolan, you want to ask your question?
Thanks, Clinton. Susan, always good to hear from you. Thank you so much for your tips and guidance around marketing. So I have a question. I was actually in the startup world for 2 years, and I led marketing in the tech space. And it's very different in terms of how we attract customers versus what I'm learning in our world of coaching, be it like networking is key, and relationships are key. But I'm curious to find out more from you around what hasn't worked for you? And I recognize that it depends on your niche. But I know you shared Facebook. So in addition to Facebook, I'm curious, like, what methods or mediums just for you over the years just wasn't like, maybe not in the coaching?
Yeah, for me, I will tell you, I know that since 2020, everything's gone virtual, but I used, when I would do in-person speaking engagements, I would get a very, very high conversion rate of people that would hire me for to be a coach, like 10%, which is actually pretty high. If there were 30 people in the audience, I would get 3 clients out of it. Since doing, and I don't do them anymore, since doing virtual presentations, since 2020, I think I got 1. And finally, I'm like, this is not working. I'm not doing the virtual. So for me, it's anything where I have to be able to make a personal connection. And I would venture to say that's true for a lot of, at some point, if you're going to hire a coach, if you were going to hire a coach, you want it to be someone that you feel some sort of personal connection with, that you can trust them, that you feel like they understand you, that something. So that things that don't have a personal connection for me haven't worked. Advertising doesn't work. Those webinars that I mentioned, I don't think there is enough time to make a personal connection, or at least I wasn't good enough at doing it, for people to then want to take me up on my offer at the end.
Mhm.
So, but it is, and I'll tell you the other thing that doesn't work for me is going to a luncheon, sitting around a table and talking about my business to everyone at the table. I'm like, that felt so false to me when I used to do it. But if I would have a one-on-one conversation with someone at a luncheon, that I was comfortable with. That has to do with my personality. So that's, again, to each his own, but anybody else want to share their experiences?
Rush me.
Yeah, I can share mine. And, you know, I also want to just add a comment about the rates too. But just to start with that, I agree with you, Susan. I think it's so important to get to know yourself and what you offer. You know, what is it about you that really touches people, that connects with people? I know for myself, I'm really good one-on-one, and I'm really good at writing about topics that I can really sort of penetrate with my clients, like really in a soul-piercing way, relate to them. So those are the topics I pick. And then I look at sort of how I make connections very easily. And they're normally in speaking engagements, one-to-one scenarios. I found myself in networking where it's like speed dating. I'm not good at that. It's just, it's too much too soon, or it's not enough time with someone, and I just don't do well. So I think it's just so important to know yourself. And, you know, what is it you bring to the table when you're making that connection with people? For me, that's really worked. And just kind of adding a comment about the rates for Kelly. One thing about the rates that has helped me in my coaching business is I look at the time I spend. So you can look at a baseline rate and kind of come up with the number of hours you're spending on with each client. So for example, I spend about an hour of prep with each client, an hour of actual coaching time, and then an hour of follow-up. And I use those 3 hours as my benchmark when I apply it to a baseline rate, which could be like $150 or $200. And that's how I come up with a cost structure. So I just wanted to throw it out there, especially when you're going to deal with companies and you're going to scale up. That's going to be really important because you're going to deal with multiple clients under one entity.
That's awesome. Thank you, Rushmi. And I believe we may have lost Susan. Is she still here? Yep. We lost her. We lost her. All right. Well, there was actually a point to that I was going to ask Susan to share, and if she comes back in, I'll watch the I will watch the the waiting room. But a question was around making an offer. There was a point she made in regard to when you're connecting, when you're speaking to folks, and at some point in time, it comes down to making an offer, whether whether that free coaching is 15 minutes, an hour, or 2 or 3 sessions, at some point, it comes to your benefit and theirs that you make an offer to them. Without me really prescribing something, I'll put that out to the group here. Does anyone want to respond? And we're all going to hope Susan comes back on and can speak to this. But does anybody want to respond to that about how you're in that relationship one-on-one, that free coaching conversation, and then you make an offer? Does anybody want to tell us a little more about that?
So Clinton, there's this brilliant
Amit.
book. I don't know if it was mentioned. This is Amit. I'm from Houston.
Welcome.
There's this book that I wanted to bring up. It's called The Prosperous Coach by Rich Litwin. I don't know if you've had a chance to refer to that. It's one of the bestsellers in the topic.
It's in the other room.
Right, you said that, so you already know. And that really served me when it comes to making a pitch in terms of in middle of a conversation if I want to end. So it's about initially, my methodology has been that initially to ensure that the client is absolutely sure I am the right coach for the person.
Mhm.
In fact, pushing back a little bit. It's called The Prosperous Coach by Rich Litwin.
Mhm.
And who's the other co-author? I'm forgetting, Clinton.
Steve Chandler, I believe.
You're right, Steve
I'll
Chandler.
grab,
And you're right, Steve Chandler is the senior coach. And
yeah,
yeah,
I'll
so
grab the Amazon and put that in the link here for everybody. It is a fabulous book. It's going to challenge some of your typical thinking on coaching, as well as just typical thinking in general. This is mentioned, right? You wouldn't really think, oh, well, I'm going to push back on this client. I'm going to limit my time, right? There just some things that are a little different than what you might think. Awesome, Amit.
yep.
Good point. Thank you. I'll add that. I'll find that and put that in here.
Mm.
I do think that one of the things Susan alluded to is at some point in time you have to come down to, and David, you said this to me. I'm going to use your this is David Bell. I'm going to use one of David's points. How can I serve you? How can I support you? Right? How can I help forward you into action? Right? What's that action? What can I do to help you take that next step? Right? Be prepared if they say, "We'll give you 3 more free sessions." Right? And be prepared. They say, "You know what? I think I'm ready. Let's go." Be prepared for that success. Anybody else have any thoughts on making an offer?
Clinton, if I could add to that, I totally agree with Amit's suggestion on the prosperous coach. I use it as my kind of Bible for my business development. But one of the things I remember Rich Litman saying in the book is be really comfortable with your offer. Like let it roll off your tongue so that by the end of your discovery session, you're so comfortable saying those words. I offer whatever, a package of 8 sessions for this amount of money. It's going to be over 3 months. And, I offer a partial refund, for example, if nothing works out. And then, of course, use the power of silence, to let that person really think about and be in the moment with that offer instead of rushing off to the next thought. Those were really sage advice in that book, The Prosperous Coach, that I remember when making the close.
That is very good advice. And I will tell you, I'm going through that book right now. It's in the other room because I'm writing down some notes, and I do this with books I really like. I'm gonna make a 1-pager, so I can just post it up right here, and I can keep these key things in mind. I did put a link in the chat to we got the Prosperous Coach, so we got a couple of them in there now. Excellent book, especially if you like really short chapters. Really short chapters. All right. Let's see. We talked about making an offer. There is Susan. Let's get her back in here. All right. Susan, she's coming. She's connecting the audio. Susan, there you are. Are you there with us? I can make her a co-host. Let's see if I can get her back in here. I cannot unmute you, which is odd because I'm the host.
Ah,
There you are.
no idea what happened. I just lost everything.
Well, we were
Sure.
keeping everybody
I-
warm. We were talking a little bit about making the offer. That was something that you mentioned earlier, and we had a little bit of a conversation on it, but I'd love to hear your thoughts when you're in that conversation, when you're in your space, where you're working one-on-one with an individual and it's time to make that offer. Any particular insights on making that offer, Susan?
It's really uncomfortable when you first do it. So I've done it, and it's different when you're doing it if you're speaking to a group. There's very much a process to that. If you're trying to get people in your audience to do something, and whatever that is, now I won't talk much about that, but you have to have a call to action. You have to have them get up or pick up something or do something. But I think the one that you're probably more interested in is, when you're having that one-on-one conversation. And after you've listened to them and you've asked them a few questions, and you've done okay, well, how long is this going to play out? What could happen if you don't do anything about this? How long are you willing to be like this? Then I will usually say something like, it might be, this is the kind of thing that I've worked with other clients on. Would you like to hear more about how I do coaching? And they'll usually say yes. And then I say, I generally work with clients for this period of time. This is what I charge. This is what you could expect. Just a few things like that. And then you ask the question. You have to ask the question, is this something you would like to get started on? You've got to ask the question. But I don't tell them about me until we've talked about them and their stuff and their problems and why they're interested in coaching.
Fabulous points, fabulous advice. All right. We've still got a few more minutes here in the session. Any other questions for Susan?
Susan,
Go ahead, Chris.
yes, Susan, I have a question. As you left your corporate job, to what extent did you retain access to your network? Because you went from a corporate email address to your own business. How did that look like? Or what did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I knew a lot of people and I stayed in touch with a lot of people. The biggest shift for me, for those of you that are making this, was having them see me in a different light.
Yeah.
So instead of them seeing me as their free mentor, now seeing me as a credentialed coach for whom they would have to pay. But that actually went pretty smoothly. And I think for me, again, I used to do a lot of speaking. And that was really the easiest way, because I could easily get hired into places to let me just say this. If it was a 1 hour pro bono, if it was a 1 hour speaking event, my deal was, I will do this for free for your organization, so long as you allow me to talk about my coaching business at the end and tell people how to hire me. And most of them would say yes. Others would be like, well, don't make it too obvious or whatever. But and when I would do speaking, I had kind of a set number of things that I could pull off the shelf, tailor a little bit. So it didn't require a lot of new effort. If I was doing a workshop for someone, that's a paid event. If it was more than a 1 hour thing, that's a whole different thing. So,
Susan, were there particular topics that you would speak on when you were doing your?
well, for me, again, it related to things that the pain points in my my target market's audience. So one of the topics was when what you've always done doesn't work anymore. Or energize your career, or things like that. And if you do decide to do speaking, I would strongly recommend you read about or get trained in the hero's journey. It's the whole process by which people become captivated by what you're saying, and then connected to, and then feel like they want what you have to offer.
Second time I've heard that in 5 days. I'll add that one in here as well. Excellent.
Did
Yeah,
I
we're
answer
good.
your question, Chris? I can't remember.
Yes, you did. Thank you. It's the how you are seen or perceived is probably one of the biggest ones, because I coach and or mentor a lot of colleagues internally.
Yeah.
And how do I convert that?
Yeah. Well, and you can let them know, I think the whole training, credentialing, that becomes kind of a marker. I now do this as a profession. I have been trained, I'm credentialed, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of a marker for, it can like shift their perception.
Yeah.
Yep. agreed.
Susan, I actually have a follow-up question that just came in my mind, based on kind of our niche conversation. It's interesting. Like I always hear, obviously, you have to have your client avatar. What's that profile going to look like? And I'm curious to understand a little bit from your thoughts around how important is it to also narrow in on industry? Because I've heard both sides of the story around, hey, if really what you're offering is universal. Like I have a mentor, she's 40 years into the business. She's industry agnostic, versus others are like, nope, so I'm curious to understand what your experience is and thoughts today.
Again, I don't know what the research would say on this, but I think it just depends. I know a coach in the Houston ICF who, because she was previously a geologist or geophysicist, that's where she focuses. But I'll bet you she could coach anybody she wanted to. So I think my, non-expert advice would be, it has, I think, more to do with where you think your best marketing and best reach is.
Yeah, opportunity to convert. Awesome. Any other questions for Susan at this time?
Susan, have you experienced a point where your marketing slows down because there's this natural word to mouth, or your clients continue with you?
Yeah, that's where I am. In fact, one of the things I was going to say is, if I were earlier in my career as a coach and we're trying to build it, I would do a lot more video. I would do a lot more YouTube. I've gotten a little bit lazy, but also my husband describes it. He's worked for himself for 50 years. He just describes it as a grass fire. You get it started and eventually it just, so yes, I would say that these days, especially since I haven't done any public speaking to mention for a couple of years, my clients have, I think all of my clients in the last couple of years, or almost all, have come from word of mouth or some sort of, so yes, at some point, but you still got to be visible because they'll forget about you.
Yeah. Stay visible. Susan, are there any success stories that you want to share that really kind of demonstrate doing things the, I guess, a good way?
Oh gosh, success, like marketing success stories?
Yeah, something that's just really worked out for you or way you intended.
And or do you integrate that as you speak to new clients?
Pardon me?
And or do you integrate some of those success stories to demonstrate to your clients of what
Well,
your value is?
I certainly use toned down and things made anonymous examples when I'm talking to a potential new client about where I've had this kind of experience before. So I do use that, obviously adhering to all of the ethical considerations around that. No, I would say I'd just go back to something I said earlier, Clint, and it works both ways. On the negative side, I was at an event recently, and there was a former client of mine who I'm like, oh my gosh, I have not stayed in touch with her. And you know what she told me? That she had just hired a coach for several of her staff. And I'm like, I'll be darned, I haven't even been in touch with her. And when we finished, she had been very happy with my coaching. Her boss had been very happy with my coaching, but 3 years went by and for whatever reason, we did not connect, or 2 years, whatever it was. And I thought, darn, that's that whole consistency and staying in connection. But the flip side of it is also true. The people that I have asked to be on panels that I see I can think of a handful of them that are always sending me business. And every time I see them, they'll be like, oh, Susan, I know so-and-so, I need to send them to you. Works both ways.
It does. All right. Any other questions, final questions for Susan? Or for the group? Again, this is a Launchpad and we're all thrusters, pushing each other upward. All right, yeah. Definitely want to thank everyone for joining. I'm going to put here in the chat just a few key points from Susan's conversation today, and also Susan's about page and her email address, Susan. So hopefully if folks want to get in contact with you, they can get in contact with you there. And I want to thank you for attending. I want to thank everyone for attending today. Wish you all the best, and may you perform at your best. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Susan.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.